Dear members of the audience, tonight we would like to present the spacesuit and the spacesuite to you. This is a joint effort from Ayrton Slayers, dancer, Daniel Vives Lynch, electroacoustic and instrumental composer, and myself, Sarah Baatout. I'm a radiation biologist, and I get to solve many challenging problems, whether it is from improving patient radiotherapy to making sure that astronauts are sufficiently protected from space cosmic radiation. Space radiation is bombarding the body of astronauts in space, and it would damage their body greatly if astronauts were not sufficiently protected. At my lab, we study how astronauts behave in an extreme environment such as space. My research is also important to develop the best astronaut spacesuit. And when you think about it, a spacesuit is the world's smallest spacecraft. Let's explore how spacesuits have evolved over time. From 2 layers of rubber fabric to a suit with a hatch in the back like a fridge door. Spacesuits have radically improved over time. In April 1961, 60 years ago, Yuri Gagarin, after having shouted, "Poyekali, off we go," as the rockets fire, became the first human to leave the embrace of planet Earth and venture into space. Gagarin completed 1 orbit of the Earth inside the Vostok 1 capsule. This was a major milestone that spurred on the Soviet Union and the US space race. The Soviets had sent dogs many times to space. The most well-known is Laika. However, making a spacesuit for a human was not the same as making a spacesuit for animals. What did Yuri Gagarin wear on such a dangerous journey? Yuri's suit had leather palm gloves, heavy leather boots, and a leather-covered radio headset. Notable features include a helmet with a visor that was not detachable from the suit, an inflatable rubber collar for use in the event of water landing, the bright orange nylon oversuit, which had a mirror sewn into the sleeve to help the cosmonaut locate hard-to-see switches and gauges, and the pressure liner with connectors for life support and communication hoses. This spacesuit was a type of emergency and rescue suit, which cosmonauts put on for launch and for re-entry. They served as a backup, duplicating all life support systems in case a spaceship malfunctioned or that the cosmonaut had to eject. The first spacesuits were made to measure for the selected cosmonauts, Gagarin and 2 other cosmonauts on standby. In the event of cabin depressurization, for example, the spacesuits would have supported the cosmonauts for 5 hours. Even the first spacesuits had a waste collection system, so they didn't have to be taken off when a cosmonaut needed to answer the call of nature.
10 минут космический корабль «Восток» совершал свой полет с первым человеком-космонавтом Юрием Алексеевичем Гагарином над нашей планетой. Между Землей и космическим кораблем была установлена двухсторонняя радиосвязь.
In July 1969, a bit more than 50 years ago, humans set foot on the moon for the first time and redefined how we think about our planet. Every time you've ever seen a person walking on the moon or in space, they've been wearing a spacesuit. The spacesuit embodies what it means to be part of humankind, to explore and to achieve something we thought was impossible. But it's not just a simple piece of clothing. The spacesuit is one of the greatest technical engineering feats ever achieved. It does everything a spacecraft does to keep a person alive, except it's wearable. But despite how advanced it is, the spacesuit is surprisingly dangerous to wear. For the 20 short moon extravehicular activities, the spacesuit had a second hermetic casing and a shoulder pack with oxygen cylinders, but it too was made to measure. However, was not very mobile. The spacesuit did not protect from space radiation, but since the trips were short, the radiation dose was not too high.
Why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Houston contact, Hawaii contact, 100% keen and modulation is Houston contact with a test 1.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The spacesuit was pressurized with oxygen to allow people to breathe. But that pressure makes it stiff and rigid. Think about trying to make a balloon animal. When you bend the balloon, it wants to spring back to its original position. Engineers have tried to solve this problem by designing the suit joints with pleats and bearings. But it still forces people to move in awkward and unnatural ways. To move in the spacesuit, first you have to move your body until it makes contact with the suit. Only then does the suit itself start to move. You can't just reach up and touch your head simply. Instead, astronauts have to roll out their shoulder and then bend their elbow to touch their helmet. "20 years ago, 3 astronauts stepped aboard the International Space Station, also known as the ISS. Since then, the ISS has hosted hundreds of residents from many countries. During the past 2 decades, the ISS grew from a small residence to a sprawling collection of laboratory modules, storage platforms, and crew living quarters. The ISS has been humanity's foothold in orbit for 20 years. It's a beautiful example of international collaboration and a miniature version of the United Nations, and has been welcoming more than 250 women and men from 19 nations. With regards to mobility and strength, the spacesuit has greatly evolved. For example, the pressure regulator was moved to the chest so that the astronaut could always easily lower the pressure and improve mobility. The helmet is made of metal. The spacesuit straps and cables are designed to make sure that in the event of depressurization, it doesn't balloon. The sleeve doesn't expand, and the fingertips do not lose contact with the fingertips of the gloves. This is especially important when you are outside the ISS, traveling at over 28,000 kilometers per hour. Inside the ISS spacecraft, astronauts are quite well protected from cosmic radiation. But the radiation dose that the astronauts will receive is still about 150 to 200 times higher than on Earth. When astronauts are going outside the ISS to repair solar panels, for example, then the spacesuit becomes the unique protection against radiation. And it becomes even more crucial to design the best radiation shielding and monitoring of doses. You'd never know just by looking at it, but the spacesuit injured astronauts. Bruises, sprains, pinched nerves, and even lost fingernails. 23 astronauts have needed shoulder surgeries to repair injuries like torn rotator cuffs. If something like that happened on the surface of the Moon or on Mars, it could destroy the mission. Fit is another major issue. In March 2019, NASA had to cancel the first all-female spacewalk because the suits available didn't fit the crew members, and it would have taken too much time to put together a different suit on orbit that was the right size. So pressure plus fit is why astronauts get beat up every time they work inside the suit.
Adaneš lušulmu, kaj pa tematna, salvete quicunque sabah salam.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
The 6-decade stretch that I have just described is the first phase of a bright future for humanity in space. Welcome to the 21st century space race, one that could potentially lead to a 10-minute space vacation, orbiting space hotels, and humans on Mars. It will take billions of euros to send people to Mars. But you don't just go to Mars to stay inside your habitat the whole time. Astronauts will be exploring and wearing the spacesuit a lot. With current NASA and ESA plans, if you send 5 people to the surface of Mars for 500 days, that will be about 1,000 spacewalks over the course of one single mission. For perspective, we've done just over 400 spacewalks in the entire history of human spaceflights. That's an insane jump in capability. If we are going to pull this off, we need to radically redefine the spacesuit. Improving the spacesuit is one of the biggest barriers to human space exploration. One of the most important things we can do to advance science is to send humans to Mars. But if we really want to revolutionize spacesuits for Mars, we have to protect the body in a fundamentally different way than what we do now, where we would need more protection against radiation. I believe the solution for a Martian spacesuit relies on a skin-tight elastic concept. It would use a concept called mechanical countermeasure and counterpressure. which means then rather than using an inflated garment to apply pressure to the skin, the spacesuit itself squeezes the body. The spacesuit of tomorrow will need to be like a second skin, elastic, flexible, full of sensors, monitoring all the body functions, but also protecting from radiation. Radiation doses during a trip to Mars and on Mars will reach about 1,000 times the dose on Earth, which will require specific radiation protective material. Dear members of the audience, all that is why I've dedicated my career to improve radiation protection on Earth and in space. Thank you to Ayrton and to Daniel for their wonderful creativity, and thank you all for sharing this trip to Mars with us. We hope to have inspired you.